The quantum research facility on Europa gleamed like a silver jewel against the moon's icy surface. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck, watching her young research team work through the latest simulation. The facility had been humanity's best-kept secret for decades, not because of any weapons development, but because of what they were trying to achieve: stable quantum tunneling between parallel dimensions. The warning came too late. The Meraxian warships emerged from hyperspace without warning, their obsidian hulls blocking out the distant sun. They were massive vessels, each one nearly the size of the research facility itself. Dr. Chen's first thought wasn't for the groundbreaking research that might be lost, but for the 38 young scientists in the quantum lab below, including her daughter Maya, who had just turned 16. "This is a violation of the Galactic Peace Accord," her second-in-command, Dr. James Morrison, shouted over the facility's blaring alarms. "They can't attack a civilian research installation." But the Meraxians weren't interested in diplomatic niceties. Their energy weapons carved through the facility's outer shields like they were tissue paper. The station's AI began evacuating personnel, but the quantum lab was the furthest from the escape pods. "Maya," Sarah whispered into her comm unit. "Maya, honey, you need to get out of there now." "Mom, we're almost done containing the quantum breach." Maya's voice came back, steady despite the chaos. "If we leave now, the cascade could tear apart half the solar system." That was Maya, always thinking of others first, just like her father had before the accident that took him 3 years ago. Sarah felt her heart constrict. The containment can wait. Your life can't. The facility shuddered as another blast hit home. Through the reinforced windows, Sarah watched escape pods launching, small bright dots against the darkness of space. Too few. Far too few. Meraxian Command, this is Dr. Sarah Chen of the Europa Research Facility. She broadcast on all frequencies. "We are a civilian installation conducting basic scientific research. There are children aboard this station. Please cease fire immediately." The response came in the form of more weapons fire. The Meraxians had long viewed humanity's rapid technological advancement with suspicion. Despite all attempts at transparency, despite sharing medical breakthroughs and terraforming technologies freely with the galactic community, humanity had never managed to fully earn their trust. "Mom, the containment field is at 98%. Maya's voice crackled through increasing interference. "Just 2 more minutes." The facility's structure groaned. Warning lights flashed across every console. Hull breach on level 3, life support failing on level 4, reactor containment at 60% and falling. Sarah started running toward the quantum lab, even as James tried to stop her. "Sarah, it's too late. The whole section is going to decompress." She shook him off. "My daughter is down there." The next blast took out the facility's primary power core. Emergency lights kicked in, bathing everything in blood-red illumination. Sarah made it halfway to the quantum lab before the hull finally gave way. The last thing she heard over the comm was Maya's voice. "Containment achieved. Mom, we did it. We saved everyone. I love." The signal cut off. 12 hours later, Sarah stood before the Galactic Assembly, her hands shaking as she read out the casualty numbers. 27 dead, including every member of the quantum research team, including Maya. The Meraxian representative, High Commander Vextal, showed no remorse. "We had credible intelligence that the facility was developing quantum-based weapons. The Empire acted to preserve galactic security." They were children. Sarah's voice cracked. "Scientists, researchers, they died containing a quantum breach that could have destroyed half our solar system. They died protecting everyone, including you." The assembly chambers erupted in murmurs, but the High Chancellor raised a hand for silence. "While the loss of life is regrettable, the Meraxian Empire acted within its rights as guarantors of galactic security. This assembly finds no cause for censure or restitution." Sarah stood very still, looking at each assembly member in turn. Some couldn't meet her eyes. Others stared back defiantly. The Meraxian representative actually smiled. "You're all so certain you understand humanity," she said finally, her voice eerily calm. "You think you know what we're capable of. You think you know our limits." She took a deep breath. "You're about to learn how wrong you are." She turned to face him directly, and for the first time, Vextol saw past his fear to recognize something in her eyes. Not hatred, but disappointment. "We could have been allies, partners in understanding the universe. Instead, you saw our research facility and assumed we were building weapons. You saw our advancement and chose fear over curiosity." With another gesture, they were back in his command center. But something had changed. Through the windows, he could see his mighty fleet, but also through it, as if the ships were only partially real. What have you done?" One of his officers stammered. "Shifted them partially out of phase with normal spacetime," Sarah explained clinically. "They're still there, still operational, but they're no longer fully part of this reality." A demonstration of mercy, not weakness. Across Meraxian space, similar scenes were playing out. Military installations found themselves existing in a quantum flux state, their weapons and defenses technically functional but unable to affect the normal universe. Centuries of military might, neutralized without a single life lost. In the Galactic Assembly, the revelation of humanity's true capabilities caused chaos. Species that had lived under Meraxian influence for generations suddenly realized the balance of power hadn't just shifted, it had been fundamentally rewritten. "We're detecting quantum phase shifts across all Meraxian military assets," Dr. Morrison reported in the command center. 98% of their combat capability has been neutralized. Sarah nodded, watching the streams of data flow past. Maya's equations had worked perfectly, allowing for precise control over what was shifted and what remained in normal space. Civilian infrastructure remained completely unaffected. "Send the final message," she ordered. Throughout Meraxian space, displays came to life with her broadcast. "Your military has been neutralized. Your weapons can no longer harm anyone. This is not an act of war or conquest, it is an intervention. You chose to attack children engaged in peaceful research. You chose fear over understanding. Now you have a choice. Remain as you are, trapped between states of reality, or join us in building something better." She paused, remembering Maya's last words about saving everyone. "We don't want your territory. We don't want revenge. We want what we've always wanted, to explore, to learn, and to grow. Together, if possible. Apart, if necessary. The choice is yours." In his command center, Vextol watched his mighty fleet shimmer in quantum flux and finally understood. Humanity hadn't been hiding their technology out of fear. They'd been hiding it because they knew what its revelation would mean. The end of one age and the beginning of another. And now, that new age had arrived, whether the galaxy was ready or not. The Galactic Assembly Chamber had never been so quiet. Representatives from 1,000 species sat in stunned silence as they processed what they had witnessed. Humanity hadn't just defeated the Meraxian Empire. They had fundamentally changed the nature of warfare itself. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the center of the chamber, her quantum-shifted form simultaneously present in every seat of the assembly. It was a calculated display of power, but also a practical necessity. In the chaos following humanity's revelation, everyone needed to hear this message directly. "For centuries," she began, her voice echoing strangely through quantum space, "the galaxy has operated on the principle of mutually assured destruction. Species built bigger weapons, stronger shields, faster ships. The Meraxian Empire rose to dominance through fear and force." She paused, letting her gaze meet each representative in turn. "That age is over." Displays throughout the chamber activated, showing the current state of Meraxian military assets. Their mighty fleets hung in quantum flux, neither fully present nor entirely absent from reality. Their weapon systems remained technically functional, but unable to affect normal spacetime. "We could have annihilated them," Sarah continued, Project Aurora gives us the capability to remove things from existence entirely, not just destroying them, but erasing them from every possible timeline. A shudder ran through the assembly at this revelation. We chose not to. The High Chancellor, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix, spoke first. Why? After what they did to your facility, to your people, to your daughter, why show mercy? Sarah's expression softened slightly. Because my daughter died containing a quantum breach that could have destroyed half our solar system. She gave her life to protect everyone, including the Meraxians. What kind of memorial would it be to her sacrifice if we used this power for revenge? The truth was far more fundamental. Project Aurora hadn't just mastered quantum tunneling. It had learned to shift entire objects, from ships to stations to people, slightly out of phase with normal spacetime. Humanity's vessels and colonies now existed in a state of quantum flux, simultaneously present and absent, observable only when they chose to be. Message from the Galactic Assembly, another technician reported. They're demanding an explanation. Sarah allowed herself a small, cold smile. Send them the Europa footage. All of it. Every second from every camera. Let them see exactly what the Meraxians did, and exactly why this is happening. She turned to a different display, this one showing the quantum mathematical models that Maya had been working on just before the attack. Her daughter's final equations glowed softly, describing a universe far more malleable than anyone had imagined. Send a message to the Meraxian High Command, she ordered. Tell them that we're not hiding anymore. Tell them that in 1 hour, we're going to demonstrate exactly what humanity is capable of. And remind them, this is still us being merciful. Because Sarah had seen the equations, she knew what Project Aurora was truly capable of. The ability to shift between quantum states meant they could theoretically erase things from existence entirely, removing them from every possible timeline. But that wasn't humanity's way. Not yet, at least. Mom would be proud. She whispered to Maya's equations. You helped us find a better way. Across the galaxy, humanity's ships began to phase back into normal space. But they were different now. Sleeker, more advanced, their hulls rippling with quantum energy that defied conventional physics. They took up positions near every major Meraxian military installation, visible but untouchable. The message was clear. We could have done this at any time. We chose not to. In his command center, High Commander Vextal watched the impossible ships appear and felt, for the first time in his long life, true fear. Not of defeat. He had tasted that before. No, he feared something far worse. He feared understanding exactly what his arrogance had awakened. The Meraxian Empire had built its reputation on having the most advanced military in known space. Their quantum-fold engines were considered unmatched, their energy weapons unparalleled, their defensive systems impenetrable, until today. In the space above New Damascus, their most fortified military base, 30 Meraxian dreadnoughts hung motionless. Not disabled this time. They were fully operational, weapons charged, shields at maximum. They simply couldn't hit anything. Human ships phased in and out of existence around them, appearing just long enough to land precision strikes before vanishing into parallel space. The mighty Meraxian fleet, terror of 3 spiral arms, reduced to swatting at ghosts. Impossible, Vextal whispered, watching the battle feeds. Their ships can't. They shouldn't be able. But we are. Dr. Chen's voice filled his command center as her image appeared, projected through means his sensors couldn't detect. Would you like to understand how? Around him, his officers drew weapons, a futile gesture against a hologram. But fear made people do strange things. Vextal waved them down. You've made your point, human. Your technology exceeds ours. No. Sarah's image walked toward him, passing through solid objects. You still don't understand. This isn't about superior technology. This is about the fundamental nature of reality itself. She gestured, and the air around them shifted. Suddenly, they weren't in his command center anymore, but floating in space. No, not space. Somewhere between spaces. Reality itself seemed to ripple around them like water. Your scientists theorized about quantum superposition, Sarah explained as Vextal and his officers gaped at the impossible view. About parallel dimensions and the malleable nature of reality. But you never pursued it because you couldn't weaponize it. You were so focused on finding better ways to destroy that you missed the bigger picture. Through the quantum haze, Vextal could see multiple versions of reality overlaid on each other. In one, his fleet was triumphant. In another, it never existed at all. The sheer scope of it threatened to overwhelm his sanity. "This is what my daughter helped us discover," Sarah continued, her voice tight with controlled emotion. "The ability to exist in multiple states simultaneously, to step between moments of time like you step between rooms. We could have used it to become unstoppable warriors. Instead, we used it to explore, to learn, to grow." She turned and walked out of the assembly chambers. As the doors closed behind her, she activated her quantum communicator, a device the Maraxians didn't even know existed. "This is Dr. Chen. Authorization code Aurora 7 Delta 9. Activate Project Aurora. Full deployment." Across Earth's colonies, lights began to dim. Communications went silent. Shipping lanes emptied. It looked like humanity was withdrawing, running scared. The Maraxians would soon learn just how wrong that assumption was. Because Project Aurora wasn't a weapons system. It wasn't even primarily military in nature. It was something far more fundamental, the practical application of everything they'd learned about quantum physics and parallel dimensions. And now, thanks to Maya's final act of sacrifice, they had achieved stable quantum tunneling. The galaxy was about to discover that humanity had not been showing its full hand. Not even close. Sarah looked out at the glittering expanse of stars visible from the assembly station. Somewhere out there, the Maraxian Empire continued their celebrations, confident in their show of force. "You should have just talked to us," she whispered. "You should have asked questions instead of making assumptions. Because now," she clenched her fists, "now we're done hiding." 3 days after the Europa incident, the Maraxian Empire's victory celebration was interrupted by silence. It started subtly at first. A few missed communications from human trading vessels, delayed responses from Earth's colonies, cargo shipments that never arrived. The Maraxians dismissed it as the expected reaction of a chastened species. High Commander Vextal even boasted about it during his morning briefing. "See how they cower," he told his assembled officers. "One show of force, and they retreat to their holes like scared rodents." Admiral Krell, his head of intelligence, wasn't so sure. "Sir, something about this feels wrong. The humans aren't just going quiet. They're disappearing. Our long-range sensors can't even detect their ships anymore. Their primitive stealth technology is no match for our sensors." Vextal dismissed the concern with a wave of his hand. "They're simply." The holographic display they were studying flickered and died. Then the room's lights followed. Then, in a cascading wave that spread across the capital city, every piece of Maraxian technology simply stopped. In high orbit above their homeworld, the pride of the Maraxian fleet hung motionless, their quantum engines silent for the first time in centuries. Emergency power kept life support running, but nothing else responded. It was as if some vast hand had reached out and switched off civilization itself. The silence lasted exactly 1 hour. When systems finally came back online, a single message waited in every computer, every communication device, every display screen across the Empire. "Now you have our attention." In the Galactic Assembly, the reaction was immediate. Species that had long lived under Maraxian influence suddenly found their defensive systems operating at unprecedented levels of efficiency. Trade routes previously vulnerable to piracy became impregnable overnight. It was as if some hidden force had optimized every piece of technology in the galaxy, except for the Maraxians. Dr. Sarah Chen watched it all unfold from humanity's new command center, deep within a quantum pocket dimension. The facility existed simultaneously in every human colony, and none of them, a space that Maya's final breakthrough had made possible. Around her, holographic displays showed the galaxy's reaction to humanity's first real flex of its technological muscle. Phase 1 is complete, Dr. Morrison reported, his avatar appearing beside her. Like many of humanity's key personnel, he was physically located light years away, but present through quantum entanglement technology that the rest of the galaxy had dismissed as theoretically impossible. The Meraxian command and control network has been completely mapped. We can shut them down at will. Sarah nodded, her eyes fixed on a display showing the Meraxian capital and the civilian infrastructure. Completely untouched, as you ordered. We're only affecting military and government systems. That had been Sarah's one absolute condition when they activated Project Aurora. They would not punish innocent civilians for their leaders' actions. Humanity would be better than that. What about the quantum signatures? She asked. Morrison's avatar smiled. They're still trying to figure out how we're doing it. Their sensors can't detect the parallel space transitions. As far as they're concerned, we've developed some kind of impossible stealth technology. The display shifted to show a new image, the equations Maya had been working on in her final moments. These calculations didn't just give us the power to shift between quantum states. They proved something fundamental about the nature of reality itself. Everything is connected. Every action affects the whole. We can't build a better future through destruction. In his quantum-shifted flagship, High Commander Vextal watched the assembly broadcast with growing understanding. All this time, he muttered, we thought we were containing a threat. Instead, we were proving ourselves unworthy of an alliance. Dr. Morrison's avatar appeared beside Sarah in the assembly chamber. The Meraxian civilian government is requesting to address the assembly. Their military leadership has been relieved of command. Sarah nodded. This was what she had hoped for. Change from within, not imposed from without. Let them speak. The new Meraxian representative, a civilian scholar named Ixel, appeared before the assembly. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice was firm. The Meraxian people wish to formally apologize for the actions of our military regime. We ask for the opportunity to make amends, to learn, to join humanity in understanding the universe rather than trying to control it. Your military capabilities will remain neutralized, Sarah stated firmly. Not as punishment, but as protection, both for others and for yourselves. Show us you can build without destroying, advance without conquering, and we'll help you develop technologies that make weapons obsolete. The assembly erupted in discussion. Species that had lived under Meraxian oppression for generations saw an opportunity for peaceful liberation. Others worried about the implications of humanity's power. A few voices called for humanity to be contained, but those quickly fell silent as they realized the futility of such suggestions. We will establish new protocols, Sarah announced, silencing the chamber. Guidelines for the ethical development and use of quantum technologies. Every species will have the opportunity to participate, to learn, to grow. But there will be safeguards. She gestured, and a quantum field around her rippled. For a moment, every being in the assembly could see reality as humanity now saw it. Layers upon layers of possibility, all interconnected, all affecting each other. This is what we protect. Not just our own interests, not just our own species, but the very fabric of existence itself. The High Chancellor leaned forward, and if we refuse these guidelines, if we choose not to participate in this new order you propose. Sarah's expression remained calm, but her voice carried an edge of steel. Then you will remain as you are, developing along your own path. But any attempt to use technology to harm others, to conquer or destroy, will be met with the same response the Meraxians faced. We will not unleash destruction upon you. We will simply ensure you cannot unleash it upon others. In the Quantum Command Center, Dr. Morrison monitored the reactions across the galaxy. 87% of known species are already signaling their willingness to participate. Even some pre-spaceflight civilizations are picking up our quantum broadcasts and reaching out. Sarah closed her eyes briefly, thinking of Maya. Begin preparation for Phase 5. It's time to show them what cooperation can achieve. The age of warfare was ending. The age of exploration was about to begin. 5 years after the quantum revelation, the Europa Research Facility had been rebuilt. But it wasn't just a human installation anymore. Scientists from across the galaxy worked there now, their quantum-shifted forms moving through the halls alongside their physical bodies as they explored the new frontiers of reality. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in what had once been the quantum lab where her daughter died. Now it was the central hub of the Galactic Scientific Coalition, a space where beings of all species came together to push the boundaries of knowledge. On the wall, Maya's final equations were preserved in holographic form, serving as both memorial and inspiration. The Maraxian delegation has arrived, Dr. Morrison announced, his avatar shimmering into existence beside her. They're ready to present their findings on quantum-enhanced ecological restoration. Sarah nodded. The Maraxians had surprised everyone with how completely they embraced their new path. Once freed from their military leadership, their natural inclination toward precision and order had found expression in scientific advancement rather than conquest. Director Chen, a familiar voice called. Sarah turned to see Ixel, the former Maraxian representative, who was now one of their leading quantum researchers. We've made a breakthrough in applying Maya's equations to planetary healing. We can actually restore ecosystems that were destroyed centuries ago. Sarah felt a bittersweet pride. This was what Maya would have wanted, her work being used to restore rather than destroy, to heal rather than harm. Show me. The air around them shifted as Ixel activated a quantum simulation. They found themselves standing on the surface of a dead world, one of many that had been stripped bare during the Maraxian Empire's centuries of expansion. But as Ixel's team activated their quantum restoration field, something remarkable happened. Reality itself seemed to flow like water, pulling possibilities from other timelines. Plants that had been extinct for centuries began to grow, drawing on quantum echoes of their former existence. Rivers long dry began to flow again, as the planet's natural systems reasserted themselves across multiple quantum states. By shifting the ecosystem partially into quantum flux, Ixel explained excitedly, we can access versions of the planet from before its destruction. The restored elements remain stable, even after we remove the quantum field. It's like giving the planet access to its own memories. In the 5 years since humanity had revealed their true capabilities, developments like this had become commonplace. Species that once poured their resources into weapons development now explored the quantum nature of reality itself. The Galactic Assembly had been transformed into a cooperative body focused on advancement rather than control. Even the few species that had initially refused to participate in the new order had gradually come around, not through coercion, but through witnessing the benefits of cooperation. It was hard to maintain an ideology of conquest when your neighbors were literally reshaping reality to solve ancient problems. Message from the Quantum Exploration Fleet, Morrison reported. They've made first contact with a civilization in the Andromeda Galaxy. Quantum communication is allowing real-time dialogue despite the physical distance. Sarah smiled. This too was part of Maya's legacy. The ability to reach across not just space but possibility itself, to connect with others in ways previously thought impossible. In orbit above Europa, the combined scientific fleet of 100 species gathered for the annual remembrance ceremony. As quantum fields rippled around them, each ship existed simultaneously in both physical and phase space, a constant reminder of how far they'd come. 5 years ago, Sarah addressed the assembled representatives, her words carrying across quantum space. We faced a choice between vengeance and vision. We chose to use our power not to destroy, but to transform. Not to punish, but to elevate. She gestured to the holographic display showing the restored worlds, the quantum communication networks, the new technologies that were reshaping their understanding of reality itself. My daughter believed that knowledge was meant to be shared, that understanding was meant to unite us. In her final moments, she didn't think of revenge or escape. She thought of protecting everyone, even those who meant her harm. That sacrifice became the foundation of everything we've built since. Around her, representatives from species that had once been bitter enemies now worked side by side, their quantum-shifted forms intermingling as they shared discoveries and planned new explorations. We stand at the dawn of a new age, she continued. Not an age of humanity's dominance, but an age of universal cooperation. Every discovery we make, every boundary we push, we do it together. In the quantum lab below, a team of young scientists, human, Meraxian, and a dozen other species, worked on their latest project. They were exploring ways to use quantum shifting to prevent natural disasters, to ease suffering across the galaxy. This was the true power of humanity's gift to the universe, not the ability to destroy, but the wisdom to create. Sarah touched the display showing Maya's equations one last time. "You were right, sweetheart," she whispered. "We did save everyone, just not in the way we expected." In the space above Europa, 1,000 ships pulsed with quantum energy, their forms shifting between states of reality. They were no longer weapons of war but tools of discovery, their crews no longer soldiers but explorers. And in their combined light, tomorrow's dawn was already breaking. The age of division was over. The age of unity had begun.